James, thank you very much for coming along today. Um, the theme of this podcast is very much, understanding the insights that you've gained from the AJC, almost like up until this second weekend. And I know you didn't attend this weekend, but you've then had all of the learnings come through to you before Christmas, and you've now hopefully had time to absorb some of that, if not all of it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully. And so one of the things that I discovered is the it's a very different experience compared to, being there live versus getting the replays. And each one has its advantages and disadvantages. So an advantage um, is there's actually much more material that you get from the replay because when you're live and you hear something and you go to a breakout, you're integrating something for yourself. When you're not live and you're listening to, the recordings, you actually get all of the breakouts. So it's not that there's a 45 minutes or an hour for a breakout. It's that you get 4 to 5 hours of breakouts. So there's so many more insights that you get that you actually would not have gotten simply only being in a singular breakout.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so yeah.
excellent. Okay, well, the first question that I have for you is, obviously the AJC coaching school, um, or any school for that matter, is a real investment. The AJC at the moment is £10,000 for 6 months. What made you consider and then committing to do it?
Mm. I think the main thing that had me consider, actually, I know the main thing that had me consider it is I've been a big fan of Steve Chandler's work. I've been in lots of different programs. I've led programs that have been very, very successful. And what I've found is that Steve Chandler's work has been the most powerful in my life beyond any marketing courses or sales courses that I've taken. And so for me to really deepen the work, I saw Ankush as the person who I thought really embodied those practices in a way that I was aligned with.
Right.
It yeah, it did not feel salesy. It felt like it really stayed true to the practicality of Steve Chandler's work while also combining it with the element of Steve Hardison's being.
Right, excellent. Excellent. And can you articulate the benefits that you've already gained and the effect that it's had on your being?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've already made a return on investment, right? If that's a question. And in terms of the benefits, I think when someone does individual coaching, there's a lot of usefulness in that, but there's something about being part of a program where as each person is doing their best to grow and you're supporting each other, there's a different level of intimacy. There's a different level of growth that occurs as a group that doesn't occur individually. And coaching can very much, at times, feel like a silo where it's here's my challenge, here's what I'm trying to grow. And there can be connection missing. But when you're connected with other coaches, they see things that you may not see. They hear things in a way that you may not have heard it. And so when you're in these conversations, it's almost as though there's these different contexts and depth that is being added to something that you know, but you're wanting to cultivate better for yourself. And so I think when it comes together as a group, it really helps do that. At least that's a benefit that I have found. And so that's shifted the way that I've enrolled, had conversations, create agreements with people. And then in terms of being, I think it only adds to the being aspect because instead of it being something that you're doing individually to try and be and step up, you're actually being called forth from other people in your mentorship, in your community, and they're creating you in a way that you might not be seeing yourself in a particular moment. And so if you don't have somebody there to help create you in the way that you're wanting to be, then it's so easy to fall back to old habits and patterns.
Right. Okay. And how would you say it's exceeded your expectations, or has it not exceeded them yet?
Hmm. Um, Honestly, I didn't come in with a lens of, exceeded or didn't exceed expectations. There's a premise of, real teaching of looking for the gold in whatever you're doing. And so for me, anytime I'm doing something, I'm looking for what's going to be most useful for me. And so what I've found most useful, most impactful for myself is the stories and the teachings that Ankush has to share, because it's things that I've heard from maybe Steve Chandler or I've learned in development, but there's a certain amount of depth that's added that I'm able to tailor in the moment, that I'm able to bring into my life, into my business, that I otherwise wouldn't have. So I didn't come in with any particular expectations. And I think anyone listening, joining something like this, if we have expectations are easily broken, but if you can open yourself up to what is the experience that you're wanting to create, what are you looking for out of this, then you get to create that. You can also make requests if you're not seeing what you want. There's an element of asking for what you need, because you might not be in your life. Most people don't ask for what they need. They're hoping someone else will just know it and deliver it. And so I think there's opportunity as well to share what you're looking for. And I think that is something that has probably, if I did have any expectations, exceeded it in how receptive Ankush and the team is to provide what is going to be most helpful for you, as long as you take ownership and responsibility of what you really need on your journey.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Good answer. Good answer. So, can you articulate the main pearls and gold that you've already gained at this second weekend of the AJC weekend, including what you might have gained in the first weekend?
Yeah. So this wasn't, I don't believe this was a particular teaching, but something that shifted for me was to really the importance of creating a certain length of agreement with clients. Because historically, I had done that in the past, and then I shifted away from that and was more on an ongoing basis, because I found that a lot of times clients would want to stay more than a year, or they'd want to stay 2 years. And I did things in an ongoing way. What I discovered though is some people didn't. And so I'd kind of have this underlying curiosity or concern that maybe if something wasn't going as well, or someone wasn't making as much progress, would they drop out? Would they not continue? And there were moments where that happened. And what I've found is that as I've actually switched people to agreements, whether that's 6 months, 12 months, it actually helps them have a sense of the timeline of working together. It helps them have a sense of what they're wanting to accomplish during that period of time. It also kind of, lights a fire under their ass to say, hey, I said that I wanted to do this. Let me make progress during this time. Because otherwise, if it's ongoing, it can feel a little bit more of like a check-in. And so not only has it helped them, it's helped me grow my business, because the other piece to this, and Ankush shares this, is that when it came time to for growing his business or renewals, Steve Chandler, he would perhaps have, let's say he had 12 clients, nine of them would renew. And so instead of it being this feeling of, or this experience of needing to constantly try and enroll new people, you really got to be in the place of service because he already knew nine people were committed or renewing. And so it actually put less strain on him to have to continually get new people. It created more room for service, more room for creativity. And so that's actually what I have found for myself is that as I've created more agreements, people want to pay in full more. It's very clear how long they're there for. And even the idea of them renewing, there's clarity that not everything in their life is going to shift in those 6 months or in those 12 months. A lot can shift. And it's not that I'm waiting till the end to have a renewal conversation. That's a continual conversation that's
Yeah,
occurring.
yeah. I mean, it was an interesting thing. I was on a podcast with Julie today, and she was saying that she like I have a 6 month and a 12 month, but she was saying that she's also got a 3 month.
Hmm.
And quite often new clients will come on board on a 3 month basis and then renew and join a 6 month program after that. But it gives them the option to, for argument's sake, to bail after the 3 months. But it also, 3 months is a commitment, and it
Hmm.
gets them into that because if they have to make a choice of, 6 months or 12 months, it may be too big.
Hmm.
And she was saying that she has a 3 month one, especially for new clients that are coming on board, and it gives them the opportunity to experience the coaching and working with her before they then commit to something longer term.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so for me, I primarily operate off of 6 month and 12 month agreements. And so what you'll find is the more a practice builds, the more you also get to be selective on what standards are right for you. And this shifts for everybody. So some coaches might say, well, I don't really want to do a 3 month agreement, but maybe they're in a position where they say, you know what, I'm filling the practice, let's
Yeah,
do a 3 month agreement. Some coaches love a 3 month agreement and
yeah,
they'll do that.
yeah,
So yeah, that's absolutely a wonderful tool and observation of really helping someone take the next step based on the next step that they're able to take that's the right commitment for them.
yeah, yeah. And how does it come across from a learning and a content perspective? Or is it more from being in that teaching environment with other people and sharing what's happening that then affects, your being at the school?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's, you know, what I would say to that is, if someone's looking for here's the structure, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to have a step by step, that is not this school. I would not come in with that. It is for you if you're wanting to create the way that your business runs, not following a specific step-by-step framework, because that is definitely not this. Because what happens is sometimes people learn a step-by-step process and then they try to learn something different, and it almost doesn't compute when people jump between programs like that. Whereas
Yeah,
this is about you really taking full responsibility for creating your practice, enrolling clients. And so, in terms of the content, the main way is there will be a teaching, there will be a structure to that. There will be breakout sessions in a group, and it's really your responsibility to bring that into your own business, into your life. So, for me specifically, I noticed, especially in the first weekend, the way in which people connected, had conversations. And I remember I'd see people connect with strangers, and I was like, wow, how do they, how do they do that? And I had very much a disconnect or a barrier. I treated things just very professionally. And by the end of the weekend, I remember on the last night, I had connected with like what would it be called? Like a bartender or a server at a restaurant, and we were taking pictures, and I connected and was really helping share things that were creating possibility in their own life, and it was a different way of being, and obviously not operating off of what I was doing before. And so it was my responsibility to bring that. And so it's almost as though someone's sharing a possibility, and there might be feelings, there might be a gap between what I'm familiar with and what I know is possible. And by taking the actions, I got to experiment with that. And that was wonderful. Did that with a cab driver, someone at the hotel. And it really shifted the way I experienced people and the way I was with people and experienced myself in those moments.
Excellent. And did they encourage you to do that, or did it just happen organically?
I think, this is where I would reflect on the teaching. It's probably based on what I was seeing, what I was getting out of the teaching, and what I thought I would like to take on. There was no one said I had to do that. That was more something that I saw of a way that I would like to be and something I would like to shift within myself. The teaching, the breakout session, and being around people who had those skills called me forth to do.
Excellent. Okay. Obviously, weekend two is often or historically has been about recognizing the greatness in yourself. Um, how have you recognized this in yourself, and what do you think the impact will be on your coaching moving forward after the school?
Hmm. Yeah. It's funny. I think this year they switched it a bit where I think that was more during weekend one,
Yeah,
and we had the bio exercise. And one of the things that I had in the bio was that for people, and I tell a story about the impact that I've had on clients and huge shifts that they've had and lives that have been changed. And I remember I had originally written, I'm not the answer, I'm an answer to on someone's path. And what I discovered, not only from a past client, because I had shared the bio with them and in my group, is that for my people, I actually am the answer. I am on their path, and there's an experience that people have with me in my coaching that they will not have with anybody else. And that became very clear, not only through the bio exercise, but also just through the process and processing over that weekend of really realizing what I bring to the client experience in ways that nobody else does and in ways that I coach. And so that was amazing. And to also have a client go, no, James, you actually are the answer. And not in a way of, hey, I know all, I'm the answer. It's like, no, I'm a pivotal part of your journey and trajectory and what you want to create. And the way that I see people, the way that I connect with people and coach them is very different than they will experience anywhere else.
right. Okay. My final question, which is, okay, and this is as much as anything else, my understanding of the focus that has changed this year, and you just alluded to it, that it's now more in line, and I said this to a couple of other people, it's more in line with the CFJ coaching school in LA, Steve Chandler's and Caroline Freya Jones, helping people to create a sustainable business practice that allows them to gain something long lasting from it. Can you tell me a little bit more about this and how you think this has happened and impacted for yourself?
Hmm. Clarifying question. So it sounds like Caroline Frere Jones, the CFJ coaching school, their main thing is to build a sustainable practice. Am I hearing that correctly?
That's the theme that they have, yes.
Oh,
And I've questioned this, and I didn't mean to make it a comparison.
hmm.
And some of the things I've heard is that, well, the AJC has always been on that vein. but
Mm.
I think it's particularly marked this year from what I've heard.
Mm. You know, I guess I would have a different take on that. To me, there's, there's people in the school who are established coaches. There's a handful of people that are in their earlier experience of coaching. And so I think a lot of times people come into a school with the premise of I'd like a full practice or I'd like to have a more sustainable practice. So I think, that's kind of always just part of a coaching school because it is it's a coaching career school. It is not a how to coach school. It's a coaching career school.
Yeah.
I would actually say the emphasis is on really someone taking radical responsibility, just honestly full responsibility of their life, their business, of what they want to create. I think a difference is from what I've gathered is that they might actually be a bit more tactical in the CFJ coaching school, whereas I think Ankush is a lot more nuggets of wisdom and metaphors and uh, encouraging people to apply that to their own life and their own journey. And there's an emphasis on everyone's practice may look different. Some people might want to meet with someone weekly. Some people might want a 12-month agreement. But what is the thing that you're doing to really be a business owner and create what you want and taking responsibility for that? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, 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 I think so. Yeah. So it has more, what you're saying, it has more flexibility. And again, this goes back to what we said earlier, insofar as that there are, some very experienced coaches, there are some, people who are just coming into coaching. Um, but this isn't about how to coach. This is about how to grow your business sustainably.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you think of Steve Chandler, um, I know he doesn't run the ACS anymore, but he would have disciplines, he'd call them. I think he called them the 18 disciplines. And I think that there's an element here where it's not a framework or a structure of, hey, do this thing. It's a teaching, a discipline, a practice. And what is the thing that you're going to do to bring this into your business, to bring this into your life? And so that I think that's where the real growth occurs for somebody because they're having to really test out for themselves these teachings and the way they're bringing them rather than saying, hey, I'm going to do this framework or this tactic and let me see if it works.
So it's almost a case of these are the tools that you can use.
Hmm.
How you apply them is up to you.
Correct. So yeah, there's a phrase that they'll use, which is tools, not rules,
Yeah,
meaning that you might use this tool at this time, but maybe you're speaking to another person and that tool doesn't make sense. There might be something else here.
yeah, yeah. Okay, excellent. James, thank you very much. I
Yeah.
hope that wasn't too arduous for you.
No, it
Um,
was wonderful.
and we'll look to get this sorted and publish them hopefully from next week onwards. And hopefully it'll give people a little bit more insight of how, this cohort is or some of the cohorts is from this year's is their takeaways, I suppose you could say.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank
Excellent.
you so much for having me, Howard.
Thank you very much. Cheers, James.
Cheers.